The intent of this video is to expose the origin of internal dialogue. I've used the writings of Carlos Castaneda, and I've taken short clips from the movie The Matrix and the movie Revolver to help offer clarity. I'm reading from the book Active Side of Infinity by Carlos Castaneda. Every one of us human beings has two minds. One is totally ours, and it is like a faint voice that always brings us order, directness, purpose. The other mind is a foreign installation. It brings us conflict, self-assertion, doubts, hopelessness. Don Juan and his lineage referred to this foreign installation by a general term, and that term is inorganic being. He also tells us that the universe at large is crammed to the brim with awareness, organic and inorganic. There's one classification of inorganic beings that caused Don Juan a great deal of concern. He called them a flyer. These are some of his thoughts. You see, the flyer's mind has no competitors, Don Juan continued. When it proposes something, it agrees with its own proposition, and it makes you believe that you have done something of worth. The flyer's mind will say to you that whatever Juan Matus is telling you is pure nonsense, and the same mind will agree with its own proposition. Yes, of course, it is nonsense, you will say. That is the way they overcome us. Modern psychologists call this foreign installation the ego. These are some of their thoughts.
The ego is the worst confidence trickster we could ever figure, we could ever imagine, because you don't see it.
And the single biggest con is, I am you.
The problem is that the ego hides in the last place that you'd ever look, within itself.
It disguises its thoughts as your thoughts, its feelings as your feelings. You think it's you.
People's need to protect their own egos knows no bounds. They will lie, cheat, steal, kill, do whatever it takes to maintain what we call ego boundaries.
People have no clue that they're in prison. They don't know that there is an ego. They don't know the distinction.
At first it's difficult for the mind to accept that there's something beyond itself, that there's something of greater value and greater capacity for discerning truth than itself.
In religion, the ego manifests as the devil. And of course, no one realizes how smart the ego is because it created the devil so you could blame someone.
Don Juan and his lineage believe that the predators have given us our systems of beliefs, our ideas of good and evil, our social mores. They are the ones who set up our hopes and expectations and dreams of success or failure. They have given us covetousness, greed, cowardness. It is the predators who make us complacent, routinary, and egomaniacal. Carlos asked, how do they do this? Do they whisper all that in our ears while we are asleep? No, they don't do it that way. That's idiotic, Don once said, smiling. They are infinitely more effective and organized than that. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predators gave us their mind, which becomes our mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. Through the mind, which after all is their mind, the predators inject into the lives of human beings whatever is convenient for them.
It disguises its thoughts as your thoughts, its feelings as your feelings. You think it's you.
You know what's so elegant about this little game, Jake? Nobody knows where the enemy is. They don't even know he exists. He's in every one of their heads, and they trust him because they think they are him. Ah, it's beautiful, man. You have to admire the opponent's elegance. Check.
Your greatest enemy is your own inner perception, is your own ignorance, is your own ego.
You have arrived by your effort alone to what the shamans of ancient Mexico called the topic of topics, Don Juan said. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that there's something holding us prisoner. Indeed, we are held prisoner. This is an energetic fact. Carlos asked, why has the predator taken over in this fashion that you're describing, Don Juan? There must be a logical explanation. They took over because we're food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their sustenance.
You are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
The basic building blocks for this prison is thought. The ego creates a constant stream of dialogue in our heads. It is this programming that the average person runs their life on. Get rid of the ego and the matrix will fall.
People have no clue that they're in prison. They don't know that there is an ego. They don't know the distinction.
Beyond the entertainment value for the ego, this mental prison is designed for one
In order to
purpose.
change a human being into this.
The power matrix. This is something that we need to discuss openly in a public forum.
Our bodies are made up of two different energy systems. We, the human, have the ability to produce and store energy. Some cultures refer to that energy as being our soul. Don Juan tells us about the foreign installation. He also calls it the energy body. It has the ability to grow in strength the same as we do. The underworld has set up a system on Earth. They call it the sorcerer's world. In the sorcerer's world, you pay out the ass for everything you do. The underworld rules us with that system. This power structure is designed to deplete the energy of the human, at the same time allow the foreign installation to grow and maintain energetic strength over the host, the human. The real sorcerer is the foreign installation. It uses the power of the human to do its bidding. And Don Juan tells us, the sorcerers of ancient Mexico, acting as a group, tried their best to buttress the impact of this disintegrating force. In our day, we have no means of acting as a group, so we must brace ourselves to face in solitude a force that will sweep us away from language, for there is no way to adequately describe what is going on.
We are keeping that civilization alive with our energy. It is our evolution as a human being to evolve from this physical form to become radiant, luminous beings. It's the inorganic beings that is crushing the life force out of the human.
This is an abridged excerpt from the book Encounters with the Nawal, Conversations with Carlos Castaneda by Armando Torres, and is taken from the section Predators of Awareness. The reading begins. Carlos claimed that human beings are hostages to a group of cosmic entities, who are devoted predators, and whose sorcerers call flyers. Man, Carlos said, is a magical being. He has the same capacity to fly into the universe as any one of the millions of awarenesses that exist. But, at some point in his history, he lost his freedom. Now his mind is no longer his own, it is an implant. He told me one of the most terrifying aspects, that we are prisoners of beings who came from the confines of the universe, and that they use us as casually as we use chickens. He explained, the portion of the universe accessible to us is the operative field of two radically different kinds of awareness. One, which includes plants and animals, and also human beings, is a whitish awareness. It is young, a generator of energy. The other one is an infinitely older and more parasitic awareness, possessor of an immense quantity of knowledge. Besides men and other beings that inhabit this earth, there is in the universe an immense range of inorganic entities. One of those species, which seers describe as enormous black flying shapes, arrived here at some point from the depths of the cosmos, and found an oasis of awareness in our world. They have specialized in milking us. That is incredible. I know, he replied, but it is the pure and terrifying truth. Have you never wondered about people's energetic and emotional ups and downs? It is the predator who shows up periodically to pick up his quota of awareness. They only leave enough so that we may continue living, and sometimes not even that. Sometimes they take too much, and the person becomes gravely ill, and may even die. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Do you mean we are being eaten alive? He smiled. Well, they don't literally eat us. What they do is a vibratory transfer. Awareness is energy, and they can align with us. Since by nature they are always hungry, and we, on the other hand, exude light, the result of that alignment can be described as energy robbery. But why do they do it? Because, on the cosmic plane, energy is the most powerful currency, and we all want it, and we humans are a vital race, stuffed with nourishment. Every living being eats other beings, and the most powerful always comes out the winner. Who said man is at the top of the food chain? That idea could only have come from a human being. To inorganic beings, we are the prey. It is normal for one species to try to consume another. A warrior does not complain about it, and tries to survive. And how do they consume us? Through our emotions, properly directed by the internal dialogue. They have designed our social environment in such a way that we are constantly shooting off waves of emotions, which are immediately absorbed. Best of all, they like attacks of ego. For them, that is an exquisite mouthful. Such emotions are the same anywhere in the universe, and they have learned how to metabolize them. Some consume us for our lust, anger, or fear, others prefer more delicate feelings, like love or fondness. But they are all after the same thing. Normally, they attack us around the area of the head, heart, or stomach, where we store the thickest part of our energy. These creatures use everything that's available, but they prefer organized awareness. They drain animals and plants in the part of their attention that is not too fixed. They even attack other inorganic beings, but they can see them and avoid them, like we avoid mosquitoes. The only ones who are completely trapped by them are human beings. How is it possible that all this is happening without us realizing it? Because we inherit the exchange with those beings almost like a genetic condition, and it feels natural to us. When someone is born, the mother offers it like food, without realizing it, because her mind is also controlled. She devotes herself to install acceptable behavior patterns. She tames the child, reduces its warring side, and transforms it into a meek sheep. When a boy has sufficient energy to reject that imposition, but not enough to enter the path of the warrior, he becomes a rebel, or socially maladjusted. The flyer's advantage stems from the difference between our levels of awareness. They are very powerful and vast entities. The idea that we have of them is equivalent to the one an ant will have of us. However, their presence is painful, and you can measure it in various ways. For example, when they provoke us into attacks of rationality or distrust, or when we are tempted to violate our own decisions. You say that it is an exchange, but what do we gain from such plunder? In exchange for our energy, the flyers have given us our mind, our attachments, and our ego. For them, we are not their slaves, but a kind of salaried workers. They bestowed these privileges on a primitive race and gave us the gift of thinking, which made us evolve. Indeed, they have civilized us. If not for them, we would still be hiding in caves or making nests on treetops. The flyers control us through our traditions and customs. They are the masters of religion, the creators of history. We hear their voice on the radio and we read their ideas in the newspapers. They manage all our means of information and our belief systems. Their strategy is magnificent. For example, there was an honest man who spoke of love and freedom. They have transformed it into self-pity and servility. They do it with everyone. For that reason, the work of a sorcerer is solitary. For millennia, flyers have concocted plans to collectivize us. There was a time when they became so shameless that they were even seen in public, and people made representations of them in stone. Those were dark times, they were everywhere. But now their strategy has become so intelligent that we don't even know they exist. In the past, they hooked us through our credulity, today, through our materialism. They are responsible for modern man's ambition not to have to think for himself. Just observe how long somebody will tolerate silence. Why the change in their strategy? Because, at this time, they are running a great risk. Humanity is in very quick and constant contact, and information can reach anyone. Either they must fill our heads, bombarding us day and night with all kind of suggestions, or there will be some who will realize and warn the others. What would happen if we were able to repel these entities? In 1 week, we would recover our vitality and we would be shining again. But, as normal human beings, we cannot think about that possibility, because it would imply to go against all that is socially acceptable. Fortunately, sorcerers have one weapon, discipline. The encounter with inorganic beings happens gradually. In the beginning, we don't notice them. But an apprentice begins to see them in his dreams and then while he is awake, which is something that can drive him crazy, if he doesn't learn how to act as a warrior. Once he understands, he can confront them. Sorcerers manipulate the foreign mind, turning into energy hunters. In this sense, sorcerers are opportunists. They take advantage of the push they've been given and say to their captors, "Thanks for everything, see you later, the agreement you made was with my ancestors, not with me." When recapitulating their life, they are literally snatching the food out of the flyer's mouth. It is like going to the store and returning a product to the shopkeeper, demanding your money back. The inorganic beings don't like it, but they can't do anything about it. Our advantage is that we are dispensable, there is a lot of food around. A position of total alertness, which is nothing but discipline, creates such conditions in our attention that we don't taste good anymore to those beings. In that case, they turn away and leave us in peace.
Alright, so today I wanted to speak a little bit about the artificial prison grid. The artificial prison grid. And you can call it all kinds of things, but you know, in the past I've spoken about the true meaning of meditation. And finally, the only way to really get out of the labyrinth, out of the prison system of this, whatever you want to call it, a holographic simulation, the make-believe of physical existence, the Brahman's creation, the whatever we want to call this phenomena that we're in as a moving, changing, ever evolving, constantly shifting place into a stabilized place of harmony, silence and peace and stillness, and escaping also in that sense, if you wish, the trap or prison that we are in, whether we want to consider that a soul trap system or whatever. What we encounter on the way out in the process of true meditation, what I call quantum resting, is we run into what we could call the prison grid. the artificial prison grid. And it's like a series of firewalls, like a bunch of nets that are, you know, bigger holes for the first people that try to get out, and then smaller and smaller and smaller and more dense. Like the first ones might be huge holes just made out of rope, and then they get smaller and they start to be making out of steel, and then finally there are even some fine electrical grid, like a force field type of system. So there is an ever increasing amount of nets, or you could say an endless almost amount of nets that keep the soul trapped. I don't even want to say the soul, would be rather to say spirit, because soul should be part of the false construct in a way. But the spirit itself, the knowing element. So there's this, that which is aware, which of the body, of the mind, of all that is, that timeless spirit, that ever-present, boundless element of knowing that we truly are, for it to be able to rest in the silence and therefore completely merge with the unmergeable or the unformed, to return to the unformed, to basically return to what we truly are as nothing, or as the absoluteness of nothing, right? The pure potential of everything, which is the fullest, the realest. It seems there is a really systematically, artificially controlled net system that keeps us like firewalls from reaching there. So in the process of meditation, true meditation is nothing but dropping everything that rises. So it's not some focusing on the white light, focus on your breathing. Those are all tools that can be used. But what we'll notice is that finally true meditation is sitting down without the need to do anything. Nothing to work out, no activity to engage in the world. You just decide for a period of time to relax and to be as nothing, right? Which is to remain, and you're breathing and you know what's happening and you hear things, sounds, but there's no active focus on anything that has something to do with future or past or a discovery or anything. And then as we sink deeper into this silent, still place of emptiness, you feel the well-being, you feel the sensations of the body, which is a very fine electrical type of current that pervades the entire body. And you rest, and you notice, in most cases, for most people, that something will arise. But really, real meditation is nothing arising. So the moment you see something arising, we drop it. And we remain as nothing. And when something arises, we drop it. That's true meditation. Now, in my own experience, when I rest in true meditation, which is the non-doing, the non-becoming, the inactivity, the negation of everything that is a doing, a becoming, the negation of that, the negation of thought, the negation of emotion, the negation of activity and momentum and movement and motion. There is at times a soft resistance, but at times also an extremely strengthy resistance, a very powerful resistance. And resting with that and looking at it and dropping it and then it returning, it really feels like it's an artificial construct that is imposed. So I was saying on a post that Alison Gold had put onto Facebook that it seems that it was about warfare, you know, mental, like mind warfare, the modern warfare that they're applying. And the artificial intelligence, or the construct in which we live, they have technologies, it seems, that can have alarms that go off at the mainframe. So basically at their artificial intelligent mind control center, the home base, right? Their headquarters, let's say. They have a system on which they can, probably through artificial intelligence, but it seems that there's something that notices when people are getting too silent, getting too still, getting too surrendered, getting too close to their true nature, you know, losing the identification with body and mind and belief systems and all that. Well, first, of course, all the belief systems, and then you lose identification with the particular circumstances of your life and what you have to do and not do. And then you lose even the necessity to think about any of those things, and then you lose the necessity to be identified with the body as the body and the mind. And then there's some kind of alarm system seems to be going off at AI headquarters, and this black goo type of artificial intelligent liquid psychic matrix in which we are basically engulfed. And the system notices somebody getting too close to the edge of the prison. And so the moment you are totally surrendered to that, they know you would escape. That the soul, the spirit light body that they have ensnared, entrapped, imprisoned, and are recycling over and over and through the system is coming way too close to escaping the boundaries of the prison, right? Getting too close to the boundaries of the prison and consciously doing it so. And so at that moment, to more or less degrees, I notice in my own life that the moment I'm really, really at calm and at peace and in silence, that something will occur in my vicinity that somehow begs attention, that begs for my attention to go with it. And then it seems like something is fueling that. So it might be something that seems, really it should seem insignificant, and however it winds you up, it wants you to be identified with that. It might be something positive, like a new hobby to engage with, or a new business prospect to chase, or something you really want to do as going for a fishing trip or whatever, or a new holiday to visit this country and see, maybe that's something to look into. Or it's always something that wants to put your attention back into the realm of the holographic system and say, don't stay in silence, don't stay in the stillness. And it forces almost you out of that, and it puts your attention back on some trivial path that leads nowhere except to more waste of time, and therefore brings you closer to the physical death. And once you haven't, if you haven't realized or escaped from the prison before physical death, then the body is most likely ensnared in some kind of white light trickery to bring you back and memory wipe you and put you back into a new vessel for being a vessel that can be fed on for the next lifetime of exploitation of energy and tax monies and all of the energy harvesting systems that go on. So in my own experience, there is a kind of prison netting firewall system that can artificially, like a computing system, almost recognize when somebody is getting too close to leaving the prison, and the spirit prison, let's say, and then it literally has the capacity to distract, and then with some artificial means fuel the distraction that makes it seem that this distraction is valid. It's something that truly has to be, sought after, researched, gone into, time spent on it, and before you know it, this trivial, secondary, superficial agenda creeps back into your existential life and redirects you on a fruitless path of searching and endeavoring to track and invest the only thing you've got, the time, as we call it, to recognize your true nature and be free from the trap. And so maybe you recognize this in yourself.
We have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives. Human beings are its prisoners. The predator is our Lord and Master. It has rendered us docile, helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protests. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoners. Indeed, we are hell prisoners. They took us over because we are food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their substance. Just as we rear chickens in the chicken coops, the predators rear us in human coops, humaneros. Therefore, their food is always available to them. Sorcerers believe that the predators have given us our systems of belief, our ideas of good and evil, our social mores. They are the ones who set up our hopes and expectations and dreams of success or failure. They have given us covetousness, greed, and cowardice. It is the predators who make us complacent, routinary, and egomaniacal. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver, stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predator give us their mind, which becomes our mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. I know that even though you have never suffered hunger, you have food anxiety, which is none other than the anxiety of the predator, who fears that any moment now its maneuver is going to be uncovered and food is going to be denied. Through the mind, which, after all, is their mind, the predators inject into the lives of human beings whatever is convenient for them. And they ensure, in this manner, a degree of security to act as a buffer against their fear.
Perfect human world, where none suffered, where everyone would be happy.
Sure, like the mind parasites, they thrive on negativity and weave hallucinations to confound the mind. But they also create beguiling wonder and synthetic paradises for their victims, namely all of humanity. Why is that? Because their primary purpose is to keep the essence of Sophia that fuels creation itself scattered across matter. We are that scattered essence, the divine spark, kept in a state of ignorance from this truth via both negative and positive machinations. Ignorance is the ultimate goal, the essence of Sophia the ultimate prize. The Archons like us to love our smartphones as much as they want us to be afraid to take up a new hobby that might improve our lives.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain.
That epigenetic plasma enveloping our souls that forces all of our bad decisions and, yes, even bad thoughts.
Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
Furthermore, madness is the consort of the demiurge, as well as the mother of all the Archons, and she demands worship as much as Yaldi-Baldi.
Well, I've wrestled with reality for 35 years, Doctor, and I'm happy to state I finally won out over it.
What matters is that these predators are real, or at the very least, should be treated as real.
Hitting bottom isn't a weekend retreat. It's not a goddamn seminar. Stop trying to control everything and just let go. Let go!
And here we are, at the end of the world, now fighting mind parasites, along with egregores, archons, and alien robots named Pandora. The Empire never ended, and neither have the voices in my head.